What's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of Your Fifth Friend podcast, where we are believers that you are a combination of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And we are here to be your fifth friend and hopefully provide you with the entertainment, knowledge, and hopefully allow you to be a better person, continue to grow within your career. How are we doing today, guys? Today is Thursday. We're in October. It's officially fall. Pumpkin season's in the building. What's going on?
It's my birthday season, which is more important, which, by the way,
I've been fucking your birthday for years.
I want everybody to know the Taheris have fucked up, not you so much, Arman, but the Taheris have single-handedly fucked up my birthday the past 3 years.
And we're going to keep that train going. I don't know what it's going to be.
I don't understand.
Their daughter also took my brother's birthday, so they're just after the Izadiyar clan.
That's her birthday now at this point.
Well, we know that birthday. But
during COVID, everybody left, and you guys got me like 200 chicken nuggets. One year we were going to do something and they fucked it up. I don't remember what it is, but I know that they fucked it up. And then last year, my birthday was on a Saturday and his wedding was on a Sunday. So when we were in Mexico, I was supposed to go for my birthday anyways, but then it ended up being for his wedding. And what ended up happening was we were there for an 8-day trip, which you know. The second day of the trip, I got an ear infection.
Yes.
By the third day, my ear ruptured. So I was running around the hotel with what are they called?
Shooting headphones.
No.
The earmuffs.
The gun range earmuffs. And all of his family and friends were looking at me like, who the fuck is this asshole playing DDR in his room and listening to music?
This guy would go to dinner with his rifle things on and be like, dude, is this guy a DJ or something? Like, what is wrong with this dude right now?
For you, those of you that don't know, if you rupture your ear, your equilibrium is totally off. And the whole time, all you hear in your head is any little noise is amplified and it just sounds terrible. So I couldn't leave without hearing every little noise and it drilling a hole in my brain.
So what's going to happen this birthday?
We're going to fuck it up.
Dude, no.
Just another reason? He's gonna go hide in like a barricade box or something.
I'm fleeing to Azerbaijan. I'm going to be in the mountains with some goats and nobody's going to know where the fuck I'm at. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Cool. Well, go ahead. Yeah. I mean, enough with your birthday. I wanted to take a moment, we got our first guest here. We're excited for that. We got our buddy Nico in the house here. He is a very legendary person, and I think there's a lot to learn from a lot of things that you've done. Nico, how are you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Nice to join you guys. It's an honor.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're the first guest, man.
We've known each other for a while, Nico.
Long time,
we met maybe like 7-8 years ago. Nico and I lived in the same like complex together, and he was like one of the first guys that like got me into like this whole business world. Like I was entering it, had no other peers in the space that were like freestyling, figuring shit out. And he was also in the marketing world. And he was telling me, he's like, dude, this guy Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week, you gotta like read his book and check it out.
That changed everything.
He was
to be honest with you,
pitching me on the book here and there. He's like talking about like, dude, I remember you told me the concept is like make US dollars, live off of peay your team in
Pesos,
Indian rupees, and live off of like, I forgot what country you're talking about, but Balinese like baht or something like that. And I was like, dude, like that's absolutely insane. Like, who is this freaking madman working by the pool all day long with like a new girl coming by the pool every other week? I was like, who is this man? And got to know him over the last couple of years and got to be really, really good friends. And you've been crushing it this entire time. Like when I met you, you were like deep in the pet world, working with a handful of different pet brands. And now working on like
Carol Baskin's right-hand man. I just want to
with Carol herself. Yeah. And now you're working with like the automotive side of things and really like crushing the game there. So you've seen everything from like that super small businesses of the world and the e-com side of things. And now you've made it up like the entire corporate side of things. So you have this interesting perspective of both sides of the coin. And I feel like I really like what you've been able to do with your business world and stuff like that, because you've taken like the untraditional approach realistically. Like the traditional approach is like, you know, climb the corporate ladder at like an ad agency or something like that. But instead you're like, no, I'm going to actually be the shit at whatever I do and chase it down. And I feel like not that many people have that mindset, especially as you like walk into some of these more corporate roles, and you've been crushing it at that ever since I met you.
Thank you, Ashkan. Yeah, thank you. No, first off, I just want to say it's really nice to see you guys grow. Like we've known each other for a really long time, and and seen you grown as a person and also professionally as well. So I just really proud of you guys, and thank you for like inviting me here and showing me what you guys got going on. Yeah, really proud of you guys.
No, I think Ashton, you did a good job kind of talking a little bit about, what he's done from the outside, but I want to hear it from you. Like, tell us a little bit about how you got into this marketing world. What was kind of that upbringing process, and like, how did you get to where you first started to where you are today? And you can take a couple minutes to kind of go over that with us.
Yeah, thanks. I think it all kind of started. I mean, I've been in the digital space for about 15 plus years, and I kind of started in it. I fumbled in it. I was going to school, and I was working at T-Mobile, and we launched like the first Google phone, and that was really exciting for me. I already had like a somewhat of a marketing background and branding type stuff, but really like working at T-Mobile allowed me to like open up my doors to see what like mobile apps had to offer, and what the marketing world had to offer, and what software had to offer, and everything else, and this whole new world of consumers like consuming information on a device that you can actually track and collect information on voluntarily or involuntarily or both, right? And being able to utilize that information for something. So that actually really interests me. And when I graduated, I got recruited to work for like a Google contract company, and I opened up my doors in like the search field. So I started working in search and understanding that. And at the time, search was the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's new, and like no one's taking advantage of it.
No one's taking advantage of it. Long tail keywords was like, blowing people's minds at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of evolved in working in the digital marketing space, and then social kind of took off. And I kind of dabbled into that. And then I got more into like the media side and like the content. And I saw like how powerful that was from a marketing perspective as well, and being able to capture users' interest by contextual ads or endemic content or non-endemic content. And then I started seeing the bigger picture of like how software can actually serve as like a purpose for businesses with all the marketing tools out there. So I started to kind of dabble more into the software end of things, and I started to slowly creep into like product management and understanding data and understanding customer journey and UX and UI design, and how that was important and how that enabled marketing. So, long story short, for a circle, I've been able to kind of experience both the corporate side, the consulting side, the small and big size businesses, and then be able to understand the technology that is used to enable those businesses to be able to deliver the best experience possible. So it's really eye-opening, and I think I kind of got in at a really good time, because at the time, the internet was already going on and all that, but mobile phones, I think, really enabled a lot of that stuff that we're doing today, and social media as well. So hopefully that kind of answers your question about like, my background and where I'm at. But I think my doors got opened up through working in the digital marketing space and starting in search, and then understanding like I was like a campaign manager, and then I also kind of worked on the sales and marketing end. So I worked in Salesforce and like a CRM, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I thought that had a lot to offer and powerful.
It seems like you had a chance to taste a lot of the different aspects of marketing throughout your kind of progression in your career. And you mentioned you started at T-Mobile. You kind of worked in a number of companies, and to where he is now, just for those in the audience, he is creating digital transformation for some of the largest businesses in the world. So you think of companies like a Microsoft that you've worked with Mazda, and you've done amazing things in the car and automotive space. What allowed you to kind of propel from someone that like is, doing these different types of roles, maybe in that kind of, marketing manager type role, to being able to become, one of the leaders in the industry when it comes to digital transformation? What got you to propel to that step and kind of grow and progress in your career to where you are now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think what got me there was learning from the businesses and the peers that I was around, and learning to see how they became successful. Okay. And understanding their failures and looking at those failures as like a learning point. Yep. And there's a really common thread between all of it. All the people that were very successful understood who their customer was. And that was huge. And once they understood who their customer was, they kind of built a philosophy and a framework around their business around to keep the customer as the center of like what their needs are. And they built their products team around that. They built their marketing team around that. They built their sales team around that. And basically, you start building your framework around that philosophy, things start happening. And then you're able to solve better problems for a customer, deliver better experience, get better engagement, get better loyalty, so on and so forth. So I think the answer to that is learning from all the successful businesses and people around me. And I learned that having your customer be number one allows you to basically grow as a business and as a person, as a career, and everywhere else.
Okay.
We talked a lot last week, matter of fact, about climbing up a corporate ladder. Like, I don't have any experience in the corporate world. Ashkan doesn't. You have small exposure. We only see things from the lens of like an entrepreneur starting something from nothing and taking it to where it is. You've obviously done a great job at starting somewhere within any position in a company and moving your way up and making your presence known. How has that differed from a small business that you were in versus these massive corporations that you're working with now? Because I can imagine like working with let's say a $20, $30 million a year company is vastly different than Kia and their multi-billion-dollar operation.
Yeah.
How do you take yourself out of a person in that assembly line and make yourself known and make your presence felt not only within the workforce, but also in the end product?
That's a good question. I think the first thing you have to do is understand who your audience is before you even like get in front of them and understand what their needs are.
And you're saying your team, or are you talking about the consumer?
Both. So let's just say there's the consumer end and you identify a problem the consumer has and you have a solution you want to be able to build against. And so in order to get that solution like going, you need to get the funding for it. So I think the biggest difference between small companies and big companies is what types of tools and resources they have available and what their budgets are, and then how you can prove the ROI to the C-level executive and be able to communicate, hey, if we make these moves here, this is what the expectation is on the back end. We're going to get more engagement. We're going to build more loyalty, or we can evolve our product into something better and to a 2 or 3.0 version of it. I think that's like the main difference though, is just how you talk to the C-level executive to get things approved, and then what types of resources you have available and the type of money that is available to solution what you need to do.
When you look at the timeframes for ROI, for a smaller brand, it's usually like we need a good return on whatever our ad spend is or whatever we're spending money towards pretty quickly because they need that to survive.
Yeah.
I'm imagining with a company like Kia or Microsoft or fill in the blank, they're looking at things from a much more extended outlook because they have the brand and they have the time. What differences are there in timeline? So you propose this thing. What's the due date on the expectation of result?
That's a good question. I think you have to understand first what the lifetime value of the customer is and the product they're getting into. Because if you offer multiple products and services, then you have to look at like how long that product or service is good for, when do they repurchase, and then what is the rate and time it takes for them to adopt or even want to think about buying that product. Once you kind of understand that, then you're able to make better decisions on, okay, I'm spending money in these places and I've been spending X amount of money and getting this engagement over the past month. Should I be getting return on investment now or not? And if your sales cycle is 6 months and you're waiting for a month for a change to happen, you see it doesn't like make sense because you're realizing, okay, I need to spend more money in the longer term, so I need to change my strategy different. So, but generally speaking, if you're talking about consumer packaged goods, like you obviously want to see something pretty quick.
Right.
If it's an impulse buy, if it's beauty products, things like that. That's what A/B testing is for. And now that you have like technology like AI, those things can change things up real time. So in the perfect world, maybe by tomorrow, the answer to your question might be immediately, which would be pretty cool because if you put a budget dedicated to an ad set, and you let that ad run, and then instead of having a human look at the A/B testing, the AI will do it for you.
So on the back
that's coming
end,
soon.
Yeah, in the back end, they're optimizing, let's say in this case, a landing page, and it's being kind of, adjusted in real time based on the users that are coming on. If you understand that user data as they're jumping into your ecosystem, you're going to, in a perfect world, create a personalized experience for every person that's coming in the website.
Totally. It's dynamic, understanding what their digital body language is. If we have any behavioral information, they say, for instance, maybe they're on car shopping for a car, and they built a blue SUV with red seats in it, and they visited the site again, like maybe a week later. Now we'll show like a blue SUV with red seats. So maybe they're now going to be a little bit closer to purchasing.
Tailor-made to what
How many
they
years
want.
ahead do you think like the enterprise world is, like this car market in comparison to like what's readily available for the average SMB brand? Because what you're saying is, first off, you guys have way more data than anyone else, right? You have all of that, like you browse this, now I'm going to customize the relationship. I'm assuming that could even go down into offline settings, like the actual dealership themselves, where it's like, all right, pull up your contact record, boom. I now see what you browse on the actual floor level of things. And now I can bring you that car if I know it's on the lot right then and there. That seems like if I'm the average e-com brand and I'm selling supplements or something like that, like I feel like the amount of data I have is I'm pretty far away from that right now. But more like every month,
it's getting closer.
It's getting closer and closer. The SMB tools are like building that out, and it's like it's kind of the way software works. Like software serves the enterprise first, and then what ends up happening is someone goes in and disrupt it. And what are they doing by disrupting it? They're not creating something new. They're now servicing the audience underneath that, and then the mid-market player comes in, and then from there a third provider comes in. They see how low can I push this price down to over here, and the SMB market, someone comes in, owns that, and becomes a new dominator of that space.
Totally. You have it right on the dot. It's just like how consumer goods, a lot of things roll out to the military first, and then it goes to aerospace and
gnarly.
Medical, and then down to, everything else, the consumers. So yeah, I think the gap between the companies like the Microsofts of the world and like an SMB being able to have the tools and technology to enable their business, the gap's getting smaller for sure. Of course, there is a big difference between budget and like getting custom things made and stuff like that. But the gap is
even
getting
the
closer.
volume of data too. It's like you guys have so much of that volume of data. I think what's kind of interesting is like what happens in the event of like the major, like the Shopifys of the world. If I'm not sure if it's a possibility, but what happens if they start sharing their data of everyone's store browsing behaviors that's going on over there, and then we kind of like share that data back to all of the brands' engines, like their optimization engines, where I can now know, like, all right, Saman likes black t-shirts. He's on my site. According to the 7 other websites he went to and checked out, like that was not my first party data. That's somewhere else. It's third party there. But if Shopify was in the world of sharing that with me, now I can utilize this customization engine to customize the experience on his behalf.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. I'm just going to use Kia because it's a Kia notebook. They sell 30 to, let's say, $100,000 cars, right? So the ticket price of these is massive. But then you look at a company like Skims, right? I bet they have more customers than Kia ever will because of the amount of volume that they sell to, the amount of customers that they have. So when you think about big data, who's really winning in that data space? Is it the $70 product that sold 10,000 times a day, or the $30,000 product that sold 100 times a day, or whatever it is in however frequency? As that gap is not widening, it's shortening though, I feel like there's new tools that you guys are using that we haven't even been exposed to when it comes to big data or even thought of. So like, what have you seen from your perspective that you could talk about, of course, that like you don't see present at all in any e-commerce activities?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like in my, my experience and background is in connectivity, IoT, Internet of Things, things that connect to the cloud and operate. So, the big companies are enabling IoT fusion sensors and devices to collect information and enable your car, your vehicle, your bike, your transportation, your Roomba in your house, things like that.
It's like an Alexa or something along the lines.
That's
Alexa,
exactly what IoT is.
And so now the technology in smart homes or smart devices, IoT devices, is becoming very cheap. And something I just kind of noticed this past summer with the World Cup, soccer, the FIFA World Cup, I think they had like live real-time data feeds. Like when you watched a match, it showed where the player was and like kind of maybe showed I don't remember exactly what it showed, but there's certain criteria that showed up on the TV screen, and
like
basically
how far they ran or something
maybe
like that.
their
Like
speed, things like that. Those types of health vitals. I don't know, or soccer vitals, whatever, sport vitals.
Sure.
Maybe that's probably a bad way of explaining it, but they basically had fusion sensors in their jerseys.
No shit.
Yeah, and it like was able to read and like distribute data like so many times a second, like back to like the server. So now you see it like in gaming, live sports games. So I think to answer your question, that's a lot of data feed, right? That's a lot of data being collected as opposed to someone just buying a pair of Skims one time every couple months. So there's only 20 players on a field, but there might be thousands of data points that, every step they take, their heart rate, whatever they're collecting. Not that they're collecting that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got a company like Whoop over here. You know, they're collecting data every second as well. Wow. They're collecting heart rate data. They're collecting, my intensity throughout the day, how much I'm sleeping, all that type of data. I do think that other kind of products that are non-health related, I feel like there has to be ways for these brands to enable more data in their ecosystem, whether it's to better understand their customer, whether it's to better understand their user behavior on whatever products they have and collecting that information. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of innovation that exists around that for sure.
Totally. Something that's happened that I just experienced the other day was I bought a new like trash can for my house, right? And I just like the design of it. It's made by a company called Simple Human. Yeah. So I bought the bags.
They're your clients, right?
They're one of our clients.
Oh, Shout out to Simple Human.
Yeah. I love it. Oh, it's really, that's awesome. So I like their stuff because I'm like such a UX geek and I like how they
reach out to their support team. Let us know what you think.
Well, this is one thing I actually took a picture of it. This happened to me last night. So I'm getting down to the very bottom of like the bags, like, replacement bags. And I pull out my, now I don't know how many are left. Let's just say 5.
Sure.
But I'm towards the bottom of like the set of bags and I pull it out and I noticed there's like a paper tag hanging off of it. And it had a little QR code on it. It says you're running low.
Wow.
I think that's fucking really cool.
If you scan the QR, they'll ship you.
So then you scan the QR code, it opens up the e-commerce page.
That's so fucking sick.
So from a data perspective, if I have my location enabled, they can see how many people from a zip code are like, like for me, if I'm scanning I bought the bags on Amazon, right? Yep. But if I'm scanning their QR code, I'm going directly to their webpage, not going to Amazon probably. And now like they kind of know like I'm a Simple Human super user because
you took advantage of something that not everyone would action, but it's there for you and they can track that. Yeah.
That's just a slick thing that people are not paying attention to. And those are the opportunities.
And it's the best way to deliver CX. Like when you think about how CX, you're enabling customer experience through the product.
Yeah,
you're just
organically.
You're just creating a low friction point or a really easy entry point for someone to refill your bags. Look, I just hit like right there and then look, Simple Human. I just thought that was such a cool,
traditionally, what is like the average brand doing is right when you get your product, you're getting these like QR codes and you're like, we need replacements. Go to this website over here. The very beginning of it, you're like, you already have the bags. That's trash. Like you're gonna toss it. You lost it. But they put it in this place where it's like not the last bag, but when there's 3 left, 5 left, where it's like, all right, we know that 5. If he orders now, he's not gonna run out. And like that is what the customer experience entails.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's for trash bags.
Yeah.
Like I mean, they digitize buying trash bags.
Dude, it's simple and it's human.
But think about it. They charge you for the trash can once. They could charge you for the trash bags over and over. I bet they're way more hell-bent on getting people to buy the trash bags than the can.
Because so the way Simple Human works is that there's the trash can, and inside the trash can, there's like, we'll call it like a sleeve, like a plastic sleeve. And then you wrap the plastic liner around that. That sleeve has different type of shapes. J's, K's, whatever. And so you have to buy the trash bag specific for that shape.
That's smart.
So that's how you get the repeat buyer. But from a product management perspective or marketing perspective, I bet the guy or gal that's managing the QR code is his or her job is not only to see how many orders come off it, but where is the location of these people? What type of demographic data can they get? Like, based on those things.
Why do you think they, as a marketer yourself, why do you think they care of that level of detail on the location of the people? What are some things that they would potentially use that data for?
Marketing. Like, let's just say, like, you can buy Simple Human stuff like at Target or, Container Store or whatever. Maybe the local area of Irvine and Costa Mesa, the SKUs in that area are XYZ. And then if you get enough people interested in a certain SKU, you know.
So you're seeing this as a way to take the offline online as well,
or vice versa.
Because they're not D2C only. Because typically what you could do, obviously, is just take a look at, all right, where am I getting repeat purchase rate based off of online orders? But you're not necessarily accounting for 100% online orders. You're accounting for the other 50% of their business, which is brick and mortar, which you probably weren't able to access. And what you mentioned earlier is you were the super user of that product. You're the one that's going above and beyond to do that. Cool. Where can we put more of those traps throughout the experience of buying not just the one trash can, but these other 25 products that are part of their sphere to increase LTV and also learn more about their customer base and just create like a better experience altogether.
Think about frequency too. If they already have your IP from the first time you hit the QR, the second time you hit it, the third time you hit it, now they have like statistical significance of if it's an average of every 4 weeks, 5 weeks, what if they hit you with an email? Hey, we recommend that you get on a subscription so we can get
or
it
the
filled
way they
up
serve ads to you.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think that's so cool. Like there's so many little anecdotal spots where you could put all of these things that like we can't even imagine, but it just works.
I think the difference between like the way a small business thinks versus the way that you think about these products and these things as well too is like small business owners are usually running around with their cocks out, like, and they're just trying to solve like there's something actually burning down, or I can't like micro, because you need to zoom in when you want to do something like that and create these like special experiences. You need someone to zoom in to the actual experience of someone opening, playing with, and utilizing your product. And I think oftentimes for really, really small teams, they don't necessarily have the opportunity, or they're not valuing the opportunity to zoom in and to pay attention to that experience as much as they should.
I think it's different priorities at different levels of revenue too, right?
But there are companies that are wildly successful, but they're choosing not to invest in one team member to zoom in. It doesn't have to be everyone. You're seeing success and people just continue to double down on more creative, more ad spend, scaling the channel, find the next marketing channel. And they don't have one person there that's in charge of of zooming in to these customer experiences where the customer is actually touching your shit. And that's what the magic of like the Apple moments are. You know what I mean? Of like when you unbox an Apple product, like they just zoomed into that experience and they said, let's make this fucking amazing.
But what do you think that means? We're using a simple human example. What, like, by doing these little things, does that create just a super loyal customer with the people that engage with it? Like, what are some of the benefits to when you go that level in depth?
Increases LTV majorly of that. Like if that wasn't there, maybe Nico went on Amazon again to go buy his trash bags.
Yeah,
like
but here's the way I look at it. Whether so if it was there, which it was, I either can A, go buy it from them directly, or B, go back to Amazon and it'll just remind me to go buy my stuff at Amazon because maybe I'm loyal to Amazon, but I'm also loyal to the brand as well as the product.
Yep.
So that's what it does. I think the one thing to point out, because you mentioned like how do you mitigate that from happening, or how can you create that from happening, especially when you're a business owner, SMB, and you got a million things going on, is I think it starts with understanding your own customer's journey and associating it to each of your products or services.
Yeah.
And what happens post-purchase.
I think the small business doesn't even pay attention to that anywhere near enough. They're paying attention to just the digital. They live in the digital world, right? Yeah. The digital experience of like, there's ads, there's emails, there's SMS. That's like, and there's the customer support and those experiences. Like that's the way most brands think of things. And I think that like in your use cases and the way most big brands, and maybe that's a separator of what makes. That's what goes from good to great, is caring about those independent moments, how people are engaging with your product.
It's the generalization of specialization that you're really talking about. Like to your point, everybody's running around with their cocks out. It's really hard to hire a ton of people just to do one thing. That's the nature of the landscape. But what have you seen from a customer experience level in the big companies where there's 100 people that are all doing one thing versus 5 people doing everything? Like, what are the different outcomes that you've actually seen with your own eyes or felt?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I'm seeing right now is a lot of big brands and medium-sized brands are trying to, like you mentioned earlier, Arman, do digital transformation and centralize, like, I don't know the best way to describe it, like a center of excellence, like a CX team that basically is like, looks at how marketing is viewed, looks at how product development is viewed, looks at how sales is viewed, and then looks at like how the information is viewed, and then how the technology and innovation for the company is where they're at currently and then where they want to go tomorrow. And how does that impact their customer? That's what a lot of companies are doing right now, is because their number one question is, how do we keep our customers and how do we make impactful experiences to come back and purchase? And a lot of times the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing in companies. So right now they're forming like these kind of cross-functional teams or a dedicated team as like a central hub that we'll call it, they advise on best suggestions based on the business intelligence that they have.
It's about the spokes in the hub, right?
Exactly.
That's really what it comes down to.
That's
all these different teams are the spokes, the center of excellence, or the CX. That's the hub. That's where everything kind of connects to.
Exactly. And then those spokes, they all touch the outside and they all touch the wheel or the tire. And then that's what keeps the thing rolling, basically. Yeah.
That's so cool to me, because we always think about like make something good enough and put it out. You're the exact opposite mind frame. It's do not release anything until it is absolutely pixel perfect.
Oh, that's another whole story. Actually, you would think that, but actually our stuff is like build minimum and then release it and then collect customer feedback to evolve it.
And then you iterate on the V2.
Then you iterate the V2. Yeah. So you get customer feedback from like the call center. You get customer feedback from like social. You get feedback from sales, like that's out in the field if it's set up that way.
There's probably a standard in terms of what's MVP for SMB versus, for a large business, but you guys are still taking a similar approach, but the standard of what is MVP is probably being, reviewed properly.
Yep. So the MVP is like the minimum viable product that gets released. And then talking about LTV, life cycle, lifetime value of a customer, you got to look at the product life cycle and then see like how do all those things align? And then how can I evolve this product based on all the feedback we're getting? And then what is the cadence of all the feedback coming in? Is it like, very little for over the year? Then maybe we evolve a product only once a year, things like that. That's how you kind of formulate your product line.
When you put that MVP out there, let's say that the product just sucks, but let's say that the V2 is incredible. Mm-hmm. Anybody that purchased the first version of it, I'm sure is going to be butthurt. And like, if it's a phone, sure, like I'll buy another one from Apple. If I didn't like Apple 10, I'll buy the 11. Like you just bought a car, you either leased it, you financed it, whatever. Now you're sitting with this thing that you bought last year, like this fucking sucks, and the new one is sick. What do you guys do to bring those customers back to life? I don't know if you remedy them some way, but like, how do you keep them to increase the lifetime value? Yeah. Or you just leave such a bad taste in their mouth that they never come back?
Well, that's where the whole surprise and delight comes. So like the idea of like delivering good experiences, like no matter the legacy of the product, you're always going to have diehard loving customers. So when you do evolve your product, the idea is that, you want to create interest instead of upset. So the reason why you're creating a better product is because those loyal customers will come back and purchase something. So you want to surprise and delight and not just, you want to add more features and benefits based on their needs. And so you only understand what their needs are is if you can track their feedback and where they're at in their journey.
So in essence, you need a handful of people to be pissed off to make the masses really happy.
Pretty much. There's some people who evolve products just on like a full handful of people that have a big voice and then it gets amplified for sure. But I think those are like the diehard customers, the hype people.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I want to spend a little bit of time talking about kind of technology and innovation and AI as a whole, right? There's a lot of things that we've seen over the last, couple of years and even honestly the last 6 months with how things are being more popularized, AI, tech, and all these new features that are coming to light. We kind of talked about this briefly a couple of weeks ago, but I want the audience and everyone here to hear, what are your thoughts on kind of technology, what's happening, and what are kind of your thoughts on what's going to be happening in the future and how businesses should be evolving to what's happening?
Yeah. I think we're living in the golden age of like automation and like democratizing really awesome tools for small businesses and for people who want to, cut themselves from the digital leash, I guess. I don't know if that's even the best way to say it, but I think there's a lot of great tools and resources out there. But for any type of business, small, medium, large. But what I think is more important is having the business that is looking into those tools that like wants to enable their business and their employees and their customers, are they prepared to dabble into that? It's kind of like, when you go from, having a hobby to starting a business, you probably go from like a simple bookkeeping, like, tool, like, I don't know, it's like a basic ledger. And then when you start realizing, oh, I'm getting a lot of sales, I got to hire people and they got to put them on, W-2s, and I need to get to another type of solution. Let's just say use QuickBooks.
Yep.
Do I even know how to use a computer? Like, am I like, like there's like little steps to adopt those tools. So I think a lot of businesses have to think about where they're at now and where they want to go tomorrow, and do a little bit of analysis and understand, okay, am I ready to take on that ride? What do I need to do to take that ride to be able to get there? So I think that's like the biggest thing, I think, for a lot of businesses.
You got to walk people into big ideas or big change.
Exactly. And even small change too. I think a lot of people are hesitant for small change as well.
Do you think, dabbling in some of this stuff can be a distraction? Like if you're, there's ChatGPT and all the millions of AI platforms that are popping up each day, it's impossible to keep up with what's happening. There are probably some businesses that are like, hey, we need to enable this AI feature within this part of our business. And can that be a little distracting from where you're trying to go tomorrow as well? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, and anything, the more choices you have, the more distracting it gets. So I think the best thing to do is, one, create a customer journey for yourself, understand who your customer is, understand their pain points, utilize that as your North Star. Two, understand who your employees are and who's using those tools and the data, and take an inventory of that. And then three, understand how much, being realistic, how much resources and budget you have to dedicate for that. And then you make your choices on like what type of technology to go for. Because some people are like, oh, I got a lot of money and I can throw at this, but you don't have anyone to like sit behind the wheel and drive the car.
Yeah. And sometimes people are throwing money just based on impulse rather than actually having data to back their decision. To kind of your point of, let's do the research first, let's understand what our customers want. Let's understand what is important for our team. And do we have the resources to put it into place, right? Not that many people take the time to do that due diligence.
Exactly. Like, was it Simon Sinek said, start with the why, right? The why is like everything, why you exist, why you're creating a product, why you're creating a service. And if you start with the why, you can start building the what and the how and the where and the when, and start mapping out where they're at, and then aligning your needs to their needs, basically, your solution to their needs.
Okay, cool. Another thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about as well is just like, what are your tips on how brands can stay ahead in this new day and age? We talked about understanding the customer journey. We talked about like doing your due diligence. What are some other tips that, brands can take today that are actionable in order to kind of stay ahead of what is happening?
Yeah, I know it sounds repetitive, but definitely understand your customer and their journey. That's the best thing to do. And then look at what your market is doing and what your top competitors are doing. And then try to look at maybe other similar markets or solutions that are in other areas, and see who's doing it well there, and see why they're doing well. What are they doing differently? Do they have a different customer base? Do they have different messaging, but for the same solution?
Yeah.
It's like, you might have one product that can solve 4 different problems and have 4 different types of customers and 4 different brands. So I think being able to look at what solutions are out there and then what other brands are doing with those solutions and learning from that is a good way. But I wouldn't try to get caught up too much into all the like technology that's coming out, because if you do that, then you'll get lost in it. And then you just kind of become the chaser of things.
Sure.
And then you lose sight of like what you're actually like trying to build.
Yeah. I believe things are more 100%. Simple than people try to make it out to. The core of it is what you're saying is a good product that's built to serve a need, with clear messaging that's solving a clear problem, and then zooming in on that relationship and that experience there, and making it, and to continue to evolve it at scale, and continuing the listening process to listen to what they want, iterating on what's going on according to their buyer's journey, ideally. And then just some strong marketing messaging to get that stuff out there. I think another thing that's important though is like, when it comes to like a small business versus an enterprise company, small businesses care so much about like the unit economics behind their business. You know what I mean? Like we're not playing the, like what Saman was saying is like when you look for that return coming back, it's like we're not playing a AOV times 6 break even point. It's like you need a return within the next 3 months. And that's just like the way it needs to be for all of these brands that are in the space. And oftentimes like even with the right, like with a good product that has a need and paying attention to the customer experience, like maybe the unit economics aren't actually there for that opportunity. Like, what are your thoughts on that? How do you look at that?
Yeah. So how I look at it is like, we've all kind of been in the marketing world more or less over the years. And, a lot of times marketing is looked at as like a cost, right? Yep. Especially big companies, they lay off marketing first. They don't lay off sales. And so I think to asking your point is like, how do you like more or less, like, how do you prevent spending a bunch of money on marketing and wasting it and then it go nowhere kind of in a way, right? And then how does that impact your company? I mean, I think companies now of today, if they want to survive tomorrow, they have to dedicate, just like they dedicate a budget for marketing, and not every single marketing campaign or advertisement is going to like win. Yeah. They have to start thinking about, we need to invest a little bit of money into innovation and testing and having like a test lab for their business that tests against like, future products and services, test against like different ideas you can deliver for experiences, and look at it as an investment. Yeah. And not as a cost.
We've done that within our business, allocating a small percentage of kind of our overall revenue towards R&D, building out new technology, testing ideas. And I think like testing is important that you can do within your business so that you can see what works and learn from that data. Yeah. And, if it's really working, double down, right? You don't, if you're not testing enough in your business, you're not coming up with new ways to get in front of your target customers, or, building out something that's going to help, drive value long-term to your customers as well, you're going to stay stagnant.
Yep. Yeah. There's an old saying in like the product building SaaS spaces, like fail fast.
Yeah.
Like the faster you fail.
There's this model. It's in like growth marketing, which is very different than like marketing in general, where it's like in marketing in general, it's like you can't have a bunch of things fail. Like you need to have like a pretty high like success rate of your shit, or you're going to get fired if you're like the CMO of a company. But then there's the idea of like having like a growth team that's there to test a bunch of shit out, and their KPI is not on like what's actually working. It's
or
how
percentage
many
of success.
It's how many things are you testing? How fast is that team moving? How creative are you being? And how like, and are you shipping off products that have and taking like a VC model against it, which is like, we need 10% of these projects to actually be profitable on our end of things, but we need to come up with 100 of them, and we need to ship 100 of them out in the next 365 days. And then from there, whatever is proving to have like a spark, which is kind of what I tell my team, is like, we need to find that spark first. If there is a spark, then we'll hand it over to this marketing team who will be there to perfect it. But then we go back to the drawing board and finding that next spark. And next thing you know, you have 20 sparks of these new innovative things that your competitors aren't necessarily doing. People aren't seeing like, this isn't like commonality. It's not the 101 of marketing. Yeah. And that's what creates that competitive mode of why you are able to move at a significantly faster pace than anyone else in the space.
Yeah. I think that's the difference between a leader and a follower. Companies who innovate, dedicate sources like that, and do exactly what you described. And the companies that follow just follow the footsteps of that. That's why there's a price difference.
They wait for the competitor to do something they copycat.
Exactly. That's why there's a price difference in some things. They cost more and less because they pay more in R&D to do all that. But if you want to hold an edge in your space, dedicate resources for that, understand who your customer is, and then innovate against that. And that you'll be an innovator in your space.
Yeah. You guys know who Patrick Bet-David is. Do you know who Patrick Bet-David is?
Oh yeah, I think he's he has a blog online, or
he has a big company called Valuetainment, and it's kind of value and entertainment. One thing that he's coming up with a new book. It's called Choose Your Enemies Wisely, and it's similar to what we're talking about here, where if you focus your time on following that direct competitor, you're only going to kind of grow like this. But that's one use case. If you're focusing your time looking at what Apple is doing, and you're choosing a different enemy, right? You're choosing the right type of enemy. it's going to allow you to grow a lot faster.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really interesting concept. As you should look at your direct competitors, but you should also look at your indirect competitors. You should look at what's happening on a different, maybe like they're not a competitor at all. You should be paying attention to what's happening. And there might be things that you can take into your business. But again, it should align with who your customer is, where you're, as that journey continues to grow, and the people that work within your business as well, and how they can help support and aid that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a completely different set of questions for you, Nico. And this is a little bit information I'm curious about. We're in the space of selling to medium and like trying to move upstream into enterprise companies as well. Whether it's like we do customer support, customer experience specifically for brands. He does bookkeeping and fractional CFO services for e-com brands as well too. One thing we're always trying to do is figure out like, how do we cut through the noise and get the attention of the customer, the Nico in this specific case over there? You probably get 1,000 emails a day from people that are reaching out, having conversations. You probably get messaging on various channels, whether it's LinkedIn or cold or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
How are people getting your attention, or like how are you adopting new tech? Like how are you finding it? What is your customer journey of finding the new tech? Is it a reach out? Is it you going to CES? Is it you reading the blog? Like where are you finding that information?
A little bit of everything. Like I guess, being in the space, I like to keep on the latest news and trends in the space, in the tech space, and it's so broad. So I think you just have to have a lot of interest in a lot of different things. And then you have your other channels like visiting, trade shows. There's also trade magazines or trade publications out there, not magazines, but both. There's industry people talking with other people. There's, searching things. There's so many different things, but I think I feel like I realized something like if you think of it, there's probably already a solution out there already. And if there isn't, then there's probably going to be one. So I think to answer your question it's just a combination of everything.
Okay. So your last piece of technology that you adopted for the last company you were working at, I was researching online, I saw it. Like they hit me up. I saw an ad for it.
So I knew about their competitor. Their competitor. Their competitor had a really big solution. And then I just started searching that solution, that competitor, and I started seeing
competitor AdWords
come up.
That's so interesting. That's how I found that company Gone recently too, that you're testing out and playing with. Like I looked at a specific tool and then they had an AdWords against it, which is like CY word X times better. And then it's like straight to a comparison page. And I think that there's like, because I'm always trying to reverse engineer what's my customer's journey and how can I go and get there in front of them as well too. And it's like that's a piece of the puzzle as well too. And just to grab that interest, and maybe it doesn't have to be like exact competitors, or maybe it's adjacent to it as well too. Like maybe like in our world, we're in the world of customer support for e-commerce brands. Maybe it's not necessarily the competitor that's servicing something similar to what it is that we do, but maybe it's like the technology that they're actively looking up, where they thought that was the only solution in the marketplace, but now we're interfering with that traffic and gathering that traffic and catching them throughout that experience.
So I'll give you maybe a deeper answer to that. So let's just say, JD Power is a great source of things. They rate a bunch of, different brands for different.
Like G2, but for.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to mention G2 for software. So JD Power is great for consumer products and all that. So a lot of times they might say like the best, consumer brand is Delta. Let's just make this up. Or for airlines is Delta. For consumer electronics is Apple. And then I'll look at the criteria and like what they graded on and why. And then I'll go to those brand sites to see like, okay, what do they got on their site? Do they have a chat bot? Do they have this? Do they have that? And then you can kind of open it up, see if there's anything like any code that can tell you what they have, any URL parameters, things like that. Do they use Salesforce, Adobe, things like that? And then you can kind of like open up the door and say, all right, this brand's using these types of tools. Now let me go to G2 and let me type in Salesforce and let me see Salesforce CRM. What other companies are out there? Oh, there's HubSpot. There's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So you take a lot of time until you make a purchase.
Go down the rabbit
Yeah, you're
hole.
very technical in terms of how you go through that rabbit hole. Yep.
Now the question is, after all of this journey, how do you get sold? And if you get sold, how do you actually get the product that you want in the business?
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming you're not going to be the one writing the check. Like it has to go through tranches of people.
Sure.
You find the shiny object, you did all of your research, you went through the rabbit hole, You're like, this is it. We need this.
Yeah. So
how do you take it to the finish line?
You take it to the finish. You have to have an agreement at the very beginning on you rally all the troops up. You're a liaison between multiple departments, helping make an enterprise decision. So in order to do that, you need agreement. So what you have to do is say, hey, we want to move forward. We all can agree we want to deliver this type of experience today, and this is where we want to go tomorrow. Are we all agreeing? Yes. Okay, in order to do that, I've worked with the technical team and I've worked with the business team to understand what our customers want. And what I've done is create a scorecard that has different criteria, and they all have different weights to the criteria. And everyone has one single vote, and they're all equal to each piece of criteria. And then basically we go through the process of like an RFP. We sit down with each vendor.
What is that?
Request for proposal.
Request for proposal.
Oh, it's like an LOI with your, okay, yeah, I got it. I've heard
That's
it before.
That's a letter of intent, but this is basically before all that, and say, here's the business requirements and the technical requirements of what we're trying to build. Can you guys build to the spec? And then you throw it out to 4, 5, 6 people or businesses, and they tell you.
So I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm really fascinated by this. Let's say, and I'm going to use big brands. Let's say Adobe came to you and they had the proposal. For you to go through the scorecards and go through all of this, do you have to find 4 or 5 other competitors similar to Adobe to see who has the best at bat?
Absolutely.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then you have to have technical requirements that meet each thing, and then you have to think about it from a business perspective too. How responsive are they? What's their technical support like? All that.
You're evaluating all these different factors.
It's a pain in the ass to sell
it's a lot. It's like, probably like 100 pieces of criteria.
That life cycle is what? Let's say if Adobe came to you today, how many months down the line would you?
Did something recently, and it took basically we were dating for like 6 months.
Fuck.
And I was dating all of them all at once, and they all knew about it.
Well, this is also really fascinating because if you have a name in that space for whatever specific software or hardware it is that you guys want to adopt, the competitors come in on the game too. So like, let's say one of them had a shittier pitch, but a better product, and one of them had a better pitch.
Or shittier product, or one of them has better service and worse product.
But now these other 5 got dragged into it. They have just as equal of an at-bat because one company sparked your interest. But now you're in bed with 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, and you have to pick one. Or in some cases, you might pick all 5, but maybe for different services. Like this might be a CRM guy. This might be an ad tech guy. This might be...
You might piece them together.
Yeah. And Frankenstein a solution.
How have you been... Swindled is not the right word, but like to what lengths have these enterprise salespeople gone to
they go crazy.
To have you grab that business?
Oh, yeah. Taylor Swift concerts,
if they could give you a hand job, they would, I'm sure. But what have they done?
No, yeah. Well, they promise everything under the sun, and they'll tell you they know who you're shopping, so they'll tell you like, hey, this is why we're different from B,
from such and such.
Yeah,
right.
And then so you have to take that with a grain of salt, but then you have to also do your research and see other companies like yours that are using their products and services, how responsive they are. If you could find out what type of budget they're using, because maybe they are really responsive because they have a big budget,
right?
And then our budget's half as big.
Yeah, changes the story.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you might choose, like if let's say you're looking at 3 different types of solutions, you might choose each of the 3 people for 3 different reasons. It doesn't matter if they're the most responsive, because you might choose for one of them the most responsive if there was 2 close ones, but the other one you might choose someone that had the best product because we really need the best product for this specific solution.
Yep.
So if things take this long just to make the purchase, I'm sure it takes almost as long to get everybody fully adapted to it once it's there. Your cadence of change or innovation in that respect doesn't seem like it's in that high of a frequency.
Yeah, because let's just say you're a big company or a medium-sized company, you're trying to purchase like say Salesforce or Adobe. You're buying a contract probably for a few years. So you have to be pretty committed. You're not switching it up like after a year. It's just because you have development costs, you have implementation costs, and then you have adoption costs.
Yeah.
So part of the scorecard is how do you get better adoption? How do we make sure the users use this product?
Now, how do you consider the future development and the rollout of those softwares? I think that's really important. Like you hear the word roadmap a lot, and I'll talk to smaller software companies They're like, oh, we have all this stuff on the roadmap that's coming next quarter, next month, next quarter, next month. And it never shows up.
Yeah.
What happens to your contract if they promise you all these things down the road with loose dates and it doesn't show up and it's directly affecting what it is you guys have going on? What happens then?
It could be a breach of contract. Breach of contract. Yeah, because they're promising services, services that might come in the future that you're trying to build off of,
And no one's happy with that outcome because you just invested all that time into it. They
Especially
don't get the cash.
That happens sometimes in the customer experience space. There's some, companies out there that say we're building these features and benefits out, and then just never build them out. They take a long time, and that buyer at the other end of the table is like hoping that's like the feature and benefit they want to buy.
I've been thinking about Fernando a lot during this call. Like, I wonder what he goes through on a day-to-day to make those sales.
He's just flirting.
Dude, it's tough.
Oh, your buddy Fernando.
Yeah, you met him before.
Yeah,
He's in enterprise sales, and I was we went to, where was it? Greenleaf, and we were talking to him loosely about it, but he's like, dude, it's a fucking tough gig.
It's hard, yeah.
You need one good contract that basically feeds you every 6 months. Like, you get 2 or 3 clients a year in the green.
Yeah. And then they'll grow their services too.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll get like
within the service. Yeah. Interesting. I got 2 more topics that I want to kind of go over before we kind of end off here. So one big thing, you've been in the game, you mentioned 15 years. Like, what are some of the things that you've seen over the years in terms of, some of your personal failures or some of the things that you've learned through other people's failures that you think would be helpful for anyone that's aspiring to grow, let's say in a marketing role or just growing in general to kind of leveling up in their career? Like, what are some of the things that you've seen around there?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One, some of my failures was I didn't have a North Star to like kind of like steer myself against, like, maybe a vision or a goal or whatever. And I think a lot of people just start with like, oh, I have this awesome thing I want to build, and they just go for it. And that's sometimes not maybe the best thing to do because you can just spin your wheels and not really have any direction. So having a North Star is good. I struggled a lot with time management, and that's why I got into the 4-hour work week a little bit, because I wanted to understand what did he mean by, like, it's not really a 4-hour work week, but the whole premise is
scaling time
and delegate, and understand your strengths and understand your weaknesses and understand costs of your time. So I think that was really big. And then that kind of opened up my door into like getting into project management. And then now I like ingrained it so much into me. Like I like think about the who, what, when, why, and how all the time. And that helps me like solve all my problems.
You have a different lens for everything that comes through the door. Yeah.
So those 3 things, I think, I struggled because I had no North Star. I struggled because I had time management problems. And then I was just trying to, figure out how I can solution things better and get my communication off better. Or communication better by using the who, what, when, why, and how, basically.
I got another kind of follow-up to some of these things. I know you, and I know you're very much, you think about a lot of different things. And when you do think about these things, you can get distracted by thinking about those types of things. Do you feel like, being someone that is really creative in nature, and you're in the CX world, you're having to be creative. Do you think that that can sometimes be like an Achilles heel for you to, help maybe drive, let's say, a project to the finish line or work with different stakeholders to get things, because maybe you do have that creative eye? Because that's what a lot of entrepreneurs in general, they have that eye. They want to do different things. They're always excited about that next amazing thing. I'm sure you've had, perspective on this over the years. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, totally. I struggle with trying to capitalize on my creativity. And so like I realized that I have, strength in being creative and then some logic strength as well. So depending on like the time of day, like I just started learning, like I just started to get to know myself. I noticed that I'm more creative late at night.
Okay.
And so I tried to delegate my own tasks that I need to be creative later on at night when I'm kind of stimulated. And then usually more in the morning, I'm like more doing logic work and like spreadsheets and, making sense of things, taking meetings. For a while, I was doing this thing called like blue hour, green hour. So like green hour is like my money making hour. So the hours I had to like the task had to do like talk to people or collect things, stuff like that.
Yep.
I would dedicate blocks of time for that. And then my blue hours was like my time to myself to like, do things. So I kind of
really interesting concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I forgot where I got the blue hour, green hour thing. I think I learned it like a Google handbook or something like that. And I just started using the Google Calendar doing blue, green, and it started working that way. But then I've used like the Eisenhower method of like, the 4 quadrants, like what's important, what can be delegated, things like that. So I think to circle back, how do you keep yourself like honest, basically, is understand your strengths and understand, if you can understand your strengths and then you understand maybe the time or the environment that you're in, nature versus nurture. Do your strengths come out more at a certain time or place in the day? Like, another thing I noticed was when I do logic work, I like to do it like kind of in a confined space. And when I do creative work, I like to have high ceilings. I like to be in openness. And so I feel like things come at me differently. So I think if you understand yourself a little bit betterly.
That's fascinating.
And where you're at, then you'll be able to do your best work.
What was the most fulfilling thing you've ever done? Out of all of the stuff that you've done in the past, I haven't done anything for 15 years in a row, let alone brush my teeth and shower. God knows. What have you done throughout that whole journey where you're like, wow, I'm really proud of this project?
Yeah, I think I'd say a lot of like the Bear Color Smart app was pretty cool. I basically built an app.
For the paint?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, you have like an app, the Bear app, and you want to you like this color purple and you want to like mix this color for your house. You take a picture of it and then go to Home Depot and get it like.
It's like a hex code.
Yeah.
No fucking way, but with their own proprietary colors.
Yeah. Well, or any color. So this doesn't have to be a Bear color. This is a Waterloo color, right?
But they can match.
Yeah, but you can get Bear material paint to be this purple.
No way. Oh, they will formulate it for you. So you
at Home Depot.
Dude, that's so
customized
sick.
based on what you find in the real world. Yeah.
Yeah. So like customer
That's
experience,
so
like I really like this color purple because it matches my favorite team. I want my son's room to be this Yankee blue or something like that.
So you're just creating real world shit. That's really what it is. It's like when you create those moments that like really matter and there's a real use case for it and people are engaging with the product and getting that experience. Like that's what it is.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, the reason why I like that one a lot, I mean, I have another one too, is because like your home is like your like puts you in your mood. So your color of your home and like what you decorate it with. So now I get to like help people be happier in their house.
You've given them a shit ton of joy.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
And then like, I've done like the car stuff, starting your car from your phone, connectivity, that like, so being able to like, hopefully I've given some people some nice warm starts in like Michigan, like on a snowy day, their car seats warmed up in their Lexus or Toyota or Mazda.
Dude, I use mine a lot, man. It's getting cold out here in California. I walk to my car on the way to the gym.
Yeah,
morning, crank that heat.
When you put things like that into perspective, I look at myself and I'm like, I haven't done anything for anyone. I'm just a piece of shit that's like always looking at revenue numbers going up or down.
Well, yeah, you're doing a lot. You're helping put food on people's table.
I'm helping people realize they're closer to bankruptcy than they think.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that too. That could be a good thing.
Yeah. Last thing that I want to talk about outside of kind of the business stuff is you love to travel, right? You are someone that really enjoys travel. You enjoy having, work hard, but also being able to enjoy your life.
This guy's been everywhere too.
Yeah.
Like
tell us a little bit.
You've been in 50. You've been like every state.
Almost every state, yeah. But yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what are your thoughts on travel? What have you done around travel, and kind of how does that like all integrate with your lifestyle?
Oh yeah, I love travel. Like for me, like traveling isn't just like taking pictures of like food and like being in front of like a museum or something.
Getting ruptured ears.
You're getting ruptured ears. Yeah,
I get it.
Right on your birthday.
That's right.
But I think what I like about traveling is I like learning from people and I like to see how people live.
Sure.
And I'm obsessed with like how people live around the world and what works best for them. And like, what works well in New York may not work well in here, or what works well in Iran may not work well here, or might work well here for whatever, cooking, cleaning, traveling. I just think the world has so much to offer, and traveling allows you to like see how people live. And it's brought a bigger like perspective of even my work as well. Seeing how people interact with other people, how they use devices, how they interact with machines and other things, signs,
how they think
about work, everything, the flow of like traffic going down, a highway or freeway or a bus stop, things like that. I think that's really interesting. and every place has something to offer. So I think traveling, that's what I really like about traveling.
You like architecting the world's experience.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it.
Do you take any of that and apply it in your own life? You're like, dude, I love the way these Greeks are just cranking cigarettes,
not doing anything all day long,
in the ocean all day
long.
Like,
you've adopted an aftab. That's been your go-to for a very long time.
I need one. I don't personally have one, but I took one of those for a try in Dubai with Ali.
Oh, the spray, the bidet.
Yeah.
You know what an aftab is?
Is that the like kind of like swoopy looking vase?
Yeah.
Like next to every Persian's toilet.
That's how you clean your butt.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
I just hop in the shower right after.
Public showers.
I'm gonna end this on a really disgusting note. But I was watching a podcast. You guys know who Joey Diaz is?
No,
he's a comedian. And
the guy with the short hair, like kind of tall guy.
He talks like this. He's a big,
okay,
like just a big Italian Guido from Jersey.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, dude, I used to shit in the shower all the time. I was like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, like I used to shit in the shower. If it was like diarrhea, I would just water it down. And if it was a log, I would just pick it up and like throw it back into the toilet.
He must have read 4-Hour Workweek and just figured out how to like cut all the time out all at once.
Whatever he was doing, it was brilliant to him. At the end of it, they're like, why did you stop? He's like, my wife caught me.
That's embarrassing.
She caught me mid-log, like, picking up and dispersing into the toilet. She's like, never again.
That's fucking disgusting. Was he just catching his shit?
Dude, imagine just the blinded lights, like shit in hand, like, babe, I can explain.
We can't end on that note. I got one more question for you. So like, you've done so many things. What's next for you? What are the things that you want to be able to accomplish as you continue to go within your career and things that you care about most in life?
Yeah, I think from my career perspective, I love what I do. Like I get to help businesses, I get to help customers get better experiences. I think for me, what's next is just continuing. Like what I do is kind of newer in the space of like the digital world. Like the big companies are doing digital transformation and looking at CX from a whole new perspective. So for me, what's next is I'd really like to bring that to like small and medium-sized businesses and democratize that for them, because I grew up, my parents own a small business and I saw what they went through just as a small business owner. I know other businesses are going through that, no matter if you're, flipping pizzas or mowing lawns. Yeah. I'd really love to enable small business owners to think of their business a little bit differently so that they have a better tomorrow, basically.
Do you see, I have no perspective on this, but do you ever see a ceiling for the amount of money that you can make for your contributions working for these jobs? Or is your job so unique and high level that you could go from where you're at to manager to VP to this to that and just continue climbing up that wall?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to track right now from a corporate. I know I can like leave corporate and go do my own thing and make the same amount of money, maybe make more, make less, or have more freedom. But I did kind of want to go into get into like a VP position of what I'm doing, because it's a new space. And for me, like especially in the auto and tech space, think of it this way: there's in the United States maybe 20 car companies. There's 20 of me.
Right.
Like that does that job.
You're a dime a dozen.
Yeah. So
you work for multiple of them. Yeah.
And I've worked for about half of them. Yeah. So I feel like I've now made my mark and now proven it to myself where I learned how to do something that I didn't go to school for or anything.
So this is cool. You attached a reputation to you in a very small market, and you're essentially, and this was a big word that you used last week, you're making your presence undeniable.
Yeah.
Like they know who the fuck you are.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say that, but I do get calls and be like, hey, I saw you work, here, and can you bring that skill set over? We're looking to grow our team this way.
Well, that's what it is.
People that be utilizing the product, like what you did is slick here. Who was the guy that actually built it? We need that guy over here, someone with that fresh set of eyes. Like it's interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be able to work with other brands and bring my skill and my value to their company. I feel like they'd all benefit from it. Absolutely. And I feel like I can, scale it to something that's doable for me and still be able to enjoy it. Because there's one thing you don't want to spend all your time working. Like you need a life as well.
Yeah. And that brings me to my last question I want to ask you is like, what's your idea of balance? You know what I mean? Like I've seen you at multiple phases of your life where again, like you were completely work from home when work from home wasn't a thing. And I was like, dude, what the hell is this guy doing? Like this is sick, all the way down to where you are now. And I know sometimes you were grinding, you know what I mean? Like I know at Mazda, you were working on a massive project over there and you were head down for a minute. Like as you continue to progress for the next 10 years, like what's your ideal like form of balance? Are you someone that wants to go like balls to walls and then like take a month off and live the yellow life? And or like what's that look like for you?
I'm open to both. Like sometimes too, because I enjoy what I do. So sometimes I'm okay with like doing it all day long. But yeah, sometimes you get burnt out, for sure. I think it's a little bit of both. Like, yeah, I could picture myself working a month and taking a month off, but I do know that I need to work. Like I like to work. Yeah. It keeps me stimulated.
Yeah.
So as long as something's still stimulating me and I'm learning and always growing, like that's all. Yeah, exactly.
As long as you're progressing to that next level of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think just fascination for you. Like you want to keep your pulse on what's going on and build it. And if it doesn't tickle your pickle anymore, you're like, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yep. Cool. That's the cool thing about the technology stuff. It's always evolving.
Yeah, there's a never ending cycle to
it.
There's
a never ending tickle to your pickle.
Never ending tickle to your pickle.
That's it. Shout out to Joey Diaz.
Love it. Awesome. Nico, it was great to have you, man. It was great to converse with you. It's always great to see you. And you're welcome to come back again and to join us in the future. But we appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching here in the video. Your fifth friend. We love you guys. Like, subscribe, give us all the love. We want to put more people in front of you guys. We want to have more of these conversations. We'll see you guys in the next episode.